Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 12. So, we're now 12 episodes into the Money Talk. Today, we've got the founder of a company that we recently funded, himself on his third venture at this point.
Hey Manish, how are you?
Hi, Anirudh. I'm good. Happy to be here.
Get into this today. So Manish is the founder of PiggyRide. I'll let Manish introduce what PiggyRide does, and then obviously we'll get into Manish's story. So Manish, what does PiggyRide do?
In a nutshell, PiggyRide is basically a platform for parents who have kids in the age range of 2 to 17. We have multitudes of products. So right now we have the main two products are Piggy Finance and Piggy Discovery. So Piggy Finance is more about school fees financing because wherein parents are facing problems in paying their school fees. So we have a platform play wherein we help them in availing those loans or financings. We have those kind of schemes where they can avail those loans and then can pay their fees in very easy EMIs. So it's kind of very pro-COVID solution wherein right now, because of this, many people are finding it difficult to have a working capital problem. Their salaries are not getting on time, and there's a furlough, and every moratorium is happening. So I think it's a very, very pro-COVID solution. The second product, which I am very excited about, is our Discovery product. So when you look at Piggy Discovery, it's a marketplace for kids' activities. So when you look at India landscape right now, everybody is trying to teach kids for maths, physics, science, and everybody's focusing on education. I think there's one big thing which is lacking is what about extracurricular, and I think.
True.
That's what PiggyRide's mission is to solve. Obviously, because when I was a kid in school, though I was okay in studies or maybe good in studies also, but I think sports also taught me many things, or many of these extracurricular activities taught me many things. So I think that's where PiggyRide is trying to plug this. Now, because of Corona, kids cannot go out or they cannot go for outdoor activities. So in that regards also, we are trying to create a tech solution where we'll connect these tutors, these institutes who have these wonderful teachers teaching this stuff, and then get them in the homes of their kids directly. So the kids can basically can learn these stuff from the comfort of their home without any concern for Corona or anything. And these tutors also can teach from any nook and corner. So I think these are the two things which I am very gung-ho about. And I think that the company is scaling really well. And I think there is a very, very bright future. Again, it depends on how we do. But again, we see a lot of scale coming up in next 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It shows in the monthly numbers, right? The way they're jumping every single month, and I think that Piggy Finance is I think you got Piggy Wallet, right? It's something that's really going to make things very, very sticky. But that being said, you told me very interestingly why the company's name is PiggyRide. So maybe you could share with the audience, why do you call it PiggyRide?
My first company name was Koovs. People have asked why it was called Koovs, and again, I had tried to bring us to. I had concocted actually a story for that, but there was no logic actually. But for PiggyRide, obviously, when you look in dictionary, the PiggyRide means for kids sitting on their father's shoulders. So again, PiggyRide wants to take that responsibility of your kid in that regards. That okay, we want to help in parenting for any parent. See, when you look at the PiggyRide model, the end user is obviously the kid, but finally the customer is the parent, who is the decision maker. Correct? So that's where we want to come in. We are saying that we want to shoulder that responsibility along with you and to give you and to make sure that you give better parenting to your kids. So that's where the whole logic behind PiggyRide. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. So there's very few companies actually have a name that you can have an emotional connect to, right? And I'm glad that PiggyRide has one. So let's talk about your journey, Manish. I think because I know that this is going to take some time because you've got like a rap sheet which took 2 pages for us to fill out, right? But you obviously graduated IIT BHU, and you did not do the traditional like 2 years and go for an MBA. You actually went into business, or you went into a couple of jobs and then straight into entrepreneurship. Let's talk about that period.
Yeah. So actually, it's a funny story. So obviously I passed BHU in 2005. I did in metallurgy, so it's very, very far away from computers. But obviously, I like to code, so that's why I went into a software engineering job. So I went CAT at least 4 or 5 times. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
and when I was opening Koovs in 2009. That was the year I got a call from CAT. Yeah, so it was very funny. He said, what should I do? Should I go for interview or should I open this company? If you see, for me, when I was working in these software companies, I think fortunately there was no Netflix at that time. I was always kind of keeping myself busy in doing stuff. So I was either learning coding or doing some stuff or doing something actually, just something, or maybe playing games. Or the main purpose was to keep myself busy. So I thought that the best way to keep yourself busy is to start a company. So I think that was the whole feel that okay, let's can you do something that where you are being held responsible for? I think so. There's a saying in our software engineering when you're a coder. So I think the biggest day for any engineer is software coder is that any stuff which you've created actually gets entered into database. So they are saying that तुमने कुछ ऐसा लिखा जो database चलेगा मतलब तुमने कुछ छोड़ दिया है. तो मुझे लगता था यार कि I want to do something which is little more beyond that. तो वो software engineering से नहीं आने वाला था. That's why I thought that why not maybe start something which actually has some value and then मतलब purpose देख start कुछ करते हैं. तो वहाँ से then we started and then obviously Koovs started. Then I got two and three of my friends and then we started this journey of Koovs. But अगर if you ask me that बहुत ज़्यादा कोई thought process बहुत ज़्यादा thought process नहीं था. करना था बस कुछ ऐसे. So then that's how we jumped into entrepreneurship.
And that's quite exciting, right? I mean, you were like, okay, kuch to karna hai. Like we have to do something, and we'll figure out the business case as we go. But Koovs started 2009.
Yeah.
Why did Koovs exist? What was Koovs trying to do?
So in 2009, I think the current landscape it's very very different from 2009. There are not many VCs, and obviously there night. मतलब उस समय इतना culture भी नहीं था that people are raising money up here and there. So when I was starting Koovs, there was a concept of group buying, which was very, very famous in US and Europe. If you might have heard of Groupon, yeah. So we thought that we are the only ones who have brains to copy that. So we created a clone of Groupon and launched in India. So we were the first ones to do that. But so I remember very specifically, we launched in December 2009, and in 2 weeks there were at least 15 clones of Groupon.
Oh, wow.
So we thought that we are not. Everybody was thinking that, and so there are only two companies which are still left. I think there were more than 50 clones at one time in India also. And group buying became like a commodity. It's for activities, for restaurants, for e-commerce. There are the only two companies which have survived, which are Snapdeal and Koovs. Yeah, all have closed. Yeah, and there are n number of players. So we started with that. I think in 1 year we understood that the concept itself is little flawed. I think Groupon also finally got this point. So we were a little early to understand that okay, the concept looks very rosy on when you start, but then the concept itself is flawed. People don't like actually discounts as much because service becomes a challenge. So
Correct.
Then we quickly pivoted into a different model, and finally, our investors also played a very big role in pivoting this. So we three founders and investors sat down and said that let's either close this business down or let's figure out something to do something else. Otherwise we won't survive. At that time, I remember Flipkart had raised around about $10 million from $5 or $10 million from Axel. So we were doing horizontal e-commerce, and then again it became a problem. So we said that why not become the fashion destination? So that's where the whole story started. That okay, let's focus on products. Let's make sure that the branding and the strategy is correct, and then we'll go from there. It's not the other way around. Sales kahan se aayegi? Let's try to figure out a strategy that what do we want to become, and then go for that. So from there, this whole strategy of fashion company being powered by e-commerce, that's where the approach, and that's how we got this UK team on board, and all the listing things happened. But yeah, so that was the point where we pivoted, and finally good things then happened.
And you had a very interesting way to get there, right? So you raised, I believe you raised $1 million seed round.
Yes.
Which again, 2009, which should have been extremely difficult. I mean, $1 million seed round sounds like a lot even today.
Yeah, so I think we met 30-35 investors. I think utne hi the us samay pe hum sabse mill liye the, and I think unfortunately, we were not very at that time we were a little naive also, and also we didn't have that what actually investors looking for. So we went and talked to so many investors, and finally, fortunately, one of the corporate house then showed interest, and that's how we came on. But that's how they are not traditional VCs, but then they kind of invest money from time to time. So I think at that time when we convinced them, so they were actually more than the idea, they were more convinced on the team that okay, these guys might do something. So that's why they came on board, and at that time it was a big amount, but then we had the pressure of scaling the business, and then so again those pressures were there anyways at that time and right now also. But yeah, I think at that time it was difficult for us because anyways the number of investors also not that much.
And interestingly, right after raising the $1 million seed round, you decided to do something that very few Indian tech entrepreneurs can ever claim to have done, which is to list your company, right? That too not in India. You listed your company in London, right? In UK, quite a blockbuster listing from what I remember. 2013 was the listing, right? 13 listing.
2013.
Yeah. And so you raised $37 million in the IPO, and you had a $20 million pre-IPO round as well. I mean,
yes.
those were some really big numbers. I mean, those are big numbers today. They make front page of ET today. But I want to understand, like, what was it like raising $20 million and that money hitting your bank account in 2011?
So see, at that time, because they were not traditional VCs, so they didn't want it. Actually, you won't find news at least regarding this $120 million round, because so these guys are not very traditional VCs. So the money came into the bank account, and again, it was business as usual, because we had scaled business very well, and we had made a very, so we were doing in 2009, we were doing business at the tunes of $1 million per month in I think 8-9 months. We had scaled business like that. So in that, so that's why they were again very happy actually to invest more. So I think that was not a challenge. But then the listing part obviously was a different ballgame, because when you're listing outside, you don't have any standing. And obviously the listing happened because of India business. Again, as I've told you, that a lot of things were driven by our investor also. But yeah, we as a team then so there's a company called ASOS in UK, which is again a number one fashion company in UK. So we got the team on board, and they brought their expertise of the product and also helped us in getting their listing. And yeah, so at that time, not many right now also know that we were the first ones to be listed. Yeah, we were the first ones to be listed in any stock exchange before, I think, in Premium also. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, this is. It was big news then, right? And I think
correct. It was a team effort actually, and actually more than the listing and the money part, the documentation was like I cannot imagine, and obviously the kind of work went in each and every, because obviously when you're getting listed, everything has to be in, every number has to be doubly checked. You have to make sure that all the regulations and compliances have been cleared, and everything is in proper shape. So I think that's where the whole process was really learning, and obviously it was exhausting. But yeah, it gave us immediate that liquidity immediately, that okay, now there is something which there's a fashion company who is now famous in UK also because of this. We at that time were almost, because we were from the day zero, we always focus on making our brand. You can say we are a marketplace, but then our 50%, more than 50% of catalog was from our own private label. So wonderful. I think at that time we were the biggest ones. Yeah. So those were actually
in fact
good times. Yeah.
To your point, Manish, I think many brands or many marketplaces today are finding out that the valuation is getting driven by private label more than selling other people's brands.
Yeah. So when you look at, and that's a problem with any marketplace. When you look at maybe Flipkart or Amazon or Ola also, maybe look at other verticals. See, if you're a marketplace and if you're giving something, if you are always charging the platform fees, the margins will be ultra thin. And then, so it's like, for example, we used to also sell mobile phones, and even though you earn a very meager, again, percentage is very less, and even a single refund or a maybe single damage piece will kill your whole category profits for entire month. So I think that's where the challenge is, when you don't have a strategy where how can you increase your margins. So I think private label gives you that comfort. And fashion, it's a little easier also to make a private label phone, or then it's actually difficult. But in fashion, obviously, so we use a lot of strategy wherein we are placing our products near. And when you look at the visual merchandising part of it, so we're placing our products with the other branded products, and that's how we lend it credibility. And obviously, a lot of stuff went in. We were actually a fashion house. When you look at Koovs platform, it was actually proper fashion house company, which is backed by technology. It's not a technology company; it's actually a fashion company. So I think that's how the company pivoted, and I think we saw very, very good traction and very good loyal following from our buyers.
And then a year after the listing, Manish, you decided that, you know what, I'm going to go do something completely different. And before we talk about Pokkt, I wanted to know, like, when did you know that you were done? Like, when did you think, you know what, is it like the listing was done?
So the listing happened in 2013. I left in 2014, around about a year after. Actually, many have asked me why did I leave Koovs. I think the only reason for me leaving Koovs was when I look at myself, I'm more of a techie, maybe more of an operations guy, or more of a marketing a number person. But I'm certainly not a fashion person. Yeah, so I lack basic fashion skills, and I think actually it's not adding more value to it. I would have to learn fashion and everything, and that's where I didn't connect in terms of that. Okay, I'm not adding any value to the product, so that's where I thought that maybe I think now it's a time to maybe it's to hand it over to professionals who can handle it much better than me, and then I think maybe I'll add more value somewhere where I can actually play a bigger role. So that's the whole reason. Yeah.
So we have a question from a very loyal follower, and thank you so much for candidly giving that answer. The question that he has is, what made you take the IPO route, and how easy or difficult was it, considering listing is a complex job for a small firm? This is from Abhishek Anand.
So we listed in the UK stock exchange, the two stock exchanges similar to us, but we are listed in AIM market, wherein many of the startups like us raise money. So obviously, if you're raising money from, I can tell you about UK. So that's what actually, if you're raising money from that market, obviously you need to have some connections, and obviously it's a roadshow kind of a thing which you need to do after. Before listing, then and you need to find buyers for that. So all of these things are needed. So for us, it's very important to find a very strong hold in London. So we had Wahid Ali, who is the founder of ASOS again, and he's actually Lord. He has been awarded lordship there. So I think that connection helped us in getting that thing done easily. But I think AIM market, if you look at, it's much easier to list than their main market. So we listed in AIM market, so which is still easier to raise money. But if you want to list in UK, you need to have some strong connections in that market. Yeah, that will help you a lot.
Hopefully, Abhishek, that answers your question. And let's move over to the next phase of your entrepreneurship life, which is Venture 2X, Pokkt. Koovs had nothing to do with your education and what you knew, and Pokkt had nothing to do with Koovs, right? So you jumped over from an e-commerce brand straight into an ad tech company. So let's talk about what does Pokkt do and how you got into it.
So Pokkt was not actually my brainchild. Koovs, I started it, but Pokkt was started by Rohit and Vaibhav. So I knew them from before and from my earlier days of Koovs, and then I joined them as another co-founder. See, for me, when I was exiting Koovs, I think the only question I had in my mind is, can I do something in technology, and can I create something? Can I use it to create better products or not? So that's why I was looking at few ideas, and that's how I got connected with. That's how I reconnected with Rohit. So when you look at Pokkt, the concept is very interesting. So if you look at the surface of it, Pokkt is basically an ad tech company like Google, Facebook, or InMobi, these kinds. So we primarily provide technology to game publishers to monetize the traffic, in nutshell when we say. But our main product was more of rewarded video ads. Yeah, so we were more focused on, first of all, video ads, and that to rewarded. And our publishers basically were mainly games. For example, if you don't understand rewarded, I'll just give you an idea. So suppose you're playing a game and you lose a life or something, you get killed or whatever, if it's a role, it's a gameplay when you get killed. The moment you get killed, an ad will come. For example, let's say the Coca-Cola ad will come, and they will say like, watch this ad and get a life. Yeah, get a life free. So the ad is very contextual. It's actually playing a major, so the audience attention is to the 100 max, and finally at the end of the ad, it gives a feeler that Coca-Cola has given you a life. Yeah, so that's a strong connect, which typically when you look at any kind of ads, wherein if you look at other OTT platforms, or if you look at even Facebook, Google, the ads are actually a hindrance. But in this case, the ads are actually rewarding you. And then there are many innovations which can be done on that. So we did a lot of innovation wherein if you interact with the ad. So for example, there can be a very simple answer. There's a movie trailer which is coming, and then if you add in the calendar, you get 2 likes. So because you're talking about technology, so there are so many things which you can do. So that part was very interesting for me. That there's something new in this technology which nobody's thought of, and can we create a solution which is again technically very, very sound, and can we create contextual ads to the next level? So that's why I thought that why not, let's start with these guys, and again it was a very, very good journey. We raised money from Singapore-based investors, and then and again I was there in Pokkt for another 5.5 years, and now the company is doing very, very good. So yeah.
But many things are very different now, right? I mean, I was looking at the list of investors. Pokkt had GSF, Jungle, Jafco, K Ganesh, Singtel, right? And these are a very different set of investors than your first set of investors that you had. And obviously your public investors, right? Public market investors. So when you look at both sets, what was the difference, I guess, for someone who maybe obviously has never experienced that, like looking at traditional Indian investors versus what you had now? Like K Ganesh is obviously a very well-known investor.
Correct. So I think the biggest difference was obviously when you look at the professional VC community, obviously I think the main criteria is for, obviously right now it has changed, but then at that time it was more after scale, going after more of the scale, and then obviously the revenue part comes in. GMV was the main focus for it. But obviously, because we were into ad tech, so we were a little safe because our margins are always healthy in the 40 to 50% or even more also. I don't know right now what are the current figures, but yeah, the margins are very healthy, and in terms of our revenue also, it was pretty much scaling well. Because it's an ad tech company, we are not into like regular e-commerce, so we didn't raise that much amount also. We were always making money for we were always making money. So in that regards, I think not much difference in terms of the interactions with the VCs. I think now when I have started something in B2C space, obviously things are a little different. But yeah, when I look at Pokkt, I think again maybe the only difference was that Pokkt investors, they're more hands-on. They helped us a lot in strategic initiatives, and they are connected with many people. Even these whatever new developments which have happened in acquisition also were being driven by our investors. Yeah, so I think that regards. Because when we talk about traditional VCs, they're not that connected. They'll be connected in that industry where we don't actually have any value. So I think that's where Pokkt investors are more hands-on.
But there was a big difference also in one way, Manish, that I noticed is that, very rarely do you know somebody who joined a startup later after it was already, up and running and then became a co-founder. So what was the difference? Because the earlier one, you obviously were the founder, and in this one, you obviously got co-founder status. So there was a bit of a difference, but what in your opinion, how was it different for you or even for the other people in the team?
Yeah, so when I was starting Koovs, the domain was taken by me. The first line of code was written by me, obviously. So I think there was a difference because I was controlling the whole strategy. I think. So when I look at my the team in Pokkt, so obviously I didn't have. So when you talk about ad tech, ad sales is a very very big part of it, and I think I didn't had any experience in that, and I think Rohit has a plethora of experience in that. So I think in that regards, Rohit was guiding me at least in this terms of how things work actually in ad tech. So I think I looked at more of, and Rohit is my also senior also in terms of experience and not in terms of college, but yeah. So I looked up to him, and that's why I think though it was not that I was the CEO, but I think the equation was always in that regards wherein every co-founder is equal. And again, it was same in Koovs also. It's not that it was different, but yeah. If you look at my responsibility, obviously Koovs was much bigger responsibility because everything was being taken care by me. Obviously, being again made sure that everything works fine. But in Pokkt, it was more of an equal relationship I had with my other two co-founders.
But I think on your part is also a very big magnanimous move because at least you have this Indian mentality, right? That if I haven't started it, then I cannot be a founder, right? And therefore I won't join a company because I didn't start it. But you took that, and obviously, I mean, you were there for 5 years. So obviously, did extremely well, and then Pokkt is eventually now acquired and about to become, as an acquired company, going to be extremely massive. I mean, without discussing what's going on, but where do you get that? I mean, I've noticed about you, you're like a fighter, right? You're like a fighter. Right? It's very difficult to keep Manish down. That's what I realized.
I think the most important trait which I found out is very very important for us to be street smart. In terms of obviously your degree, your numbers, and everything matters, and obviously how do you speak, or whatever. Actually, everything matters. But then I think in entrepreneurship, what I've learned is you have to be street smart. Obviously, when you are getting customers, how do you retain customers? How do you market? How do you get more value out of spending less? And there are XYZ things. I think there's a continuous effort from my side that how can I make sure that whatever I thought to start should work at least, because finally at the end of the day there is time, resource, and money being spent on that, and can there be certain value created out of that? So when we started Koovs also, as you correctly said, when you started Koovs, the things were not working fine. So we needed to figure it out that how can we change this and maybe create much better value. So that's why we pivoted, and actually we pivoted twice in Koovs. Same for Pokkt actually. And I think when I was joining Pokkt, obviously if you look at, I was a founder, but I don't look like that. For me, the important thing was whether this idea itself is interesting and how is the team. I think the most important thing was that I was comfortable with all of the other people, and obviously I saw that we can add a lot of value together. So I think that's where I thought that why not join as a co-founder, and then let's see if we can reach to great heights in that. So I think fortunately some of that part is achieved. So but yeah, it was a team effort. For me again, मेरे लिए बस ऐसा कि यार कि सैटरडे संडे कुछ काम होना चाहिए, मतलब टीवी नहीं देखो, बस मैं टीवी देख सकता हूँ बट तो भी कुछ ना कुछ होना चाहिए, आप कुछ करो वाला लाइफ, तो वो आपको नौकरी से नहीं मिलता है. तो बस आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर आई थॉट दैट कि काम करना तो यार मतलब लेट्स बी अ फाउंडर एंड देन ट्राई टू सॉल्व समथिंग. So on.
So, Manish, I run this thing called AMA, right? So if a lot of founders, if they have any questions that they normally do not get answered, so they can ask me questions. So a lot of them get questions, I cannot find a co-founder. That's a very common, like, I think every week I'll have at least three people asking me, कि मुझे co-founder नहीं मिला, I can't get a co-founder, what can I do? And I've always realized that actually is a function of the founder himself, not being able to find a co-founder, right? So as someone who's been on the other side, right, what would your advice be to founders today? And this is a personal question of mine, that how can they invite someone to become a co-founder, become part of their journey, and how can they invite a co-founder into their company and also ensure that that person feels like you did, that company is yours?
Okay. So I think, when we start the company, so when we are trying to look for co-founder, I think for me, it's my personal opinion, but we try to find out that, okay, there are complementary skills and needed. That is, suppose I'm good in technology, then I want to find somebody in sales or marketing or maybe operations. The flaw in that is because you are a founder, when you're a co-founder, it's like you're in a marriage. Right? If there are 4 or 5 founders, then it's a like Mahabharat kind of marriage. Yeah, but so point. So the point is that because you are going to be you will be much closer to these guys than your family.
Very true.
The complementary skills will not be a bigger challenge. Basically how we will be getting along, what are your personal relations, that is something which will be very important. So for me, when I started my company in Koovs, I'll give an example. When I started my company, Koovs, so my 2 other co-founders were my schoolmates. Yeah. And both of these were technology guys. I was technology guy, the other 2 were also technology guys. Yeah.
Got it.
And हमें सिर्फ technology पता थी, तो और किसी को कुछ नहीं पता था. But the reason was, why did we start? Because we 3 knew each other and हमें पता था कि एक दूसरे को काटेंगे नहीं. मतलब जनरली हम अपनी लैंग्वेज बोलते हैं कि we say this that see the moment funding comes in, the moment valuation game starts again, तो सब अपने दिमाग चलने लगते हैं. किसी की equity कम है, किसी की equity ज़्यादा है. So I think in that regards you need that comfort that okay, at the end of the day we all are friends, because we need to, if the company doesn't succeed, it's zero. Correct? So finally at the end of the day, that person relation is very important. So I think when you're looking at founders, I think look for friends who are obviously committed, who have, again, there are a few certain skills obviously needs to be there, that he's serious about the idea. He can give in his 24 hours. Basically, he can work for this XYZ years. That is there. But apart from that, you need to have that, personal, in terms of you need to have that comfort factor actually. If that is not there, then it will be a very big challenge. It might break in next 2 weeks also. So I have seen companies doing that problem. But the people have tried to source founders from other people that are sourced on LinkedIn or maybe on Facebook or maybe on different uses. It doesn't work out. For me, it hasn't worked out. I have only started companies with people who I have known. So I have known Rohit. Earlier, I have known my Koovs guys. I have known my PiggyRide founders. So I think that's how you should find out founders whom you are more comfortable with, rather than just going for the boss. We need somebody with complementary skills.
You're not obviously, you're saying you're not trying to fill in a gap. You're trying to build a cohesive unit, right? And that's what really matters. Yeah. And I agree. In fact, 2 of the founders that have come on the show before both met their co-founders in the sports team they were playing for. So Bhavin found Dipesh playing football together. Yeah. So and it was very, very interesting story. You're looking everywhere in the world, and the guys on your football team.
You cannot hire a co-founder, correct? So that's how you cannot treat it as a job, and you can then hire a founder and then say that okay, now you have to think like me, you have to work like me. It doesn't happen actually.
And obviously now Pokkt acquisition has happened. You had one more 5-year period which is ended. Right. And what was that like? Now in 10 years, from 2009 to 2019, you went through 2 ventures, 2 stories, and 2 exits.
Yeah.
Right. And again, a very rare position for you, because you had one IPO exit and one M&A exit, right, which happened recently.
Yes.
So how do you feel about your 10 years as an entrepreneur?
I think when I started Koovs, so we were more focused on making it more than a success than making a success for ourselves. We wanted Koovs to sustain. Even though if we have gone and then we have been able to manage this, I am happy with that. So we wanted to make it as a successful company. So I think if you leave aside the money part and anything else, so I think that's where I think I'm happy. In Pokkt, it's a small company. It's not a very big venture like Koovs, where we have raised tons of money. So in that regards, it was run very frugally by us, and we wanted to attain certain numbers, and it's like so in Pokkt it was more of that. Okay, you have to achieve this, this, and this, and if you do this, this will happen. So it was like going according to the plan, and it actually happened. So I think that's where I learned that okay, how to manage things in not in a much non-expensive manner, and making sure that achieve your goals. So I think that's where more than the expansiveness of Koovs, I think there a lot of learning happened in Pokkt for me to live frugally, to run the company frugally. And I think when you look at overall experience, obviously there have been two positive, two successful exits, but yeah, I think there's still so many things to learn. I think I have, so when I was running Pokkt, I was away from this B2C space. So now when I went into this, so everything has changed. So even Google Analytics भी अलग तरीके से काम करता है. मतलब, so it's been a now a new experience again. But yeah, I'm glad that again there's something new to learn, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
And I'm hoping that now that we're on the third trip that you're on, right, that this is going to be even bigger than the first two. So let's talk about PiggyRide, right? How did the idea, how did the idea of PiggyRide, how did that start? What was the idea that you were coming with? I know we met each other before you had even registered your company. And we had talked about the idea, but where did the inspiration for the idea come from?
Yeah, so PiggyRide, so when we started PiggyRide, our first product was basically solving this kids transportation. Yeah, so there is no professional solution right now existing for kids. When you look at kids, they travel in. So there are 4 major categories they travel to: schools, preschools, and then there's after-school activities, and then there's tuition centers. So apart from schools, where also the bus system is still very broken. But you look at these 50% of school kids don't use school buses actually, and then remaining all the 3 categories, there's no professional solution at all. So we thought that why not create a service which can actually solve that, cater to that market. The idea came from, so I used to play cricket before Corona happened, and every weekend, and so I have a proper team and we play with corporate. So I have my team in my society, so, and I'm the captain there also. Yeah, so I play cricket every Saturday, Sunday. Yes. So I play on every Saturday, Sunday, and I used to go to a coaching center. So so in January, I think my form was not good. So I'm the opening batsman also because I'm the captain. So I was getting out a lot.
Because you're the captain, the opening batsman. Is that what you said?
No, I'm a good batsman. I'm a good batsman, which I supposed to think. But yeah. So I was getting out basically on in-swingers. So somebody told me that why not go and attend do a stint with a bowling machine, because the bowling machine can actually bowl at 120, 125, and they can have both in-swing, out-swing, and you can practice. So I started going there for a week, and I saw that in the morning, there are at least 15, 20 parents sitting in the shed with their laptop, with the dongle, with the water bottle. It was their water bottle, not the kids' bottle, kid bottle. So, and I saw that for next 4 or 5 days, I thought, why they are taking so much space even on a weekday? And then I talked to a few of these parents. I asked them, what's the problem? Why not using Ola, Uber, or Main? Why not using anything else? So then they told me that because these activities start on time, end on time, you cannot depend on Ola and Uber. Obviously, when the kids have to return, then you have to give them a phone if they want to book an Ola and Uber. And secondly, they don't trust any other. So if there is a private vendor. So that's from this idea got germinated that why if we can create a solution wherein multiple kids can sit in the same car, because when you look at kids travel, it's typically it's typically happen in a 5 to 6 kilometer area. They don't travel longer distances, correct? So if we can have multiple paying users in a single car, so there maybe you can create a profitable solution. So from there the whole idea started. So we started a journey in the month of, I think, April from that same academy, and from there we took off. And we scaled the numbers to a very good number by the month of February and March. But unfortunately, Corona happened, and obviously, as everybody knows, that things have not been very good for travel and obviously for school, for anything involving kids. So that's why, again, because we don't want to sit idle and we also want to create value for our investor, for ourselves also, we thought that why not, let's focus on the other 2 things which we already planned out. So we quickly, it took us 3 months to launch our product, and we launched our finance and discovery, and now we are seeing good numbers. So yeah, that's how this journey of PiggyRide happened.
And along the way, you picked up a new co-founder, Rohan. I think you worked with him at Koovs for a bit.
Yeah.
What was the conversation? Why Rohan?
So Rohan is a pass out from ITT, and he was, I think, a fresher at that time when he joined Koovs. and I was heading operations at that time in Koovs, and he was working with me. And what I found in Rohan was that it's again a trait which not many people have. He's a very straightforward person, I think, in that regards. And typically, because of my past stints, people typically do agree with me if I'm wrong. Also, I think that's where Rohan has actually been very straightforward. If he doesn't agree with something, then he straight away tells me. And because he's very good in because when he was in Koovs, I had seen him working, how strong he was in analytically and how strong he was in numbers. And then after Koovs, he joined Ola. And then it was again, he was there in Ola when Ola was just scaling up. So he has seen that scale. So when I was starting PiggyRide, because the first product we were thinking was launching transport for kids. So I think the best person to solve this will be working either in these two companies, Ola or Uber, though they are not of the same category, but somebody who solved transportation. So that's was the whole use case for me. But apart from that, I knew Rohan from last 10 12 years. We have known for a long time, and we have been in touch for XYZ other reasons. But yeah, I think again the same reason that when I talked to Rohan, I had that comfort factor, I had that trust, and I knew that obviously that he's also in for a long haul. So that's how then we thought that why not start something together.
So in fact, somebody asked a question. I can't remember the name, but the question was that how do you decide how much equity to give a co-founder? How did Rohan and you guys decide here? How much are you going to get? How much do I get?
See, the way I look at this is obviously when I am starting. So let's say there are two friends who have got the idea simultaneously, and then they discuss it. Obviously, then the discussion can be a little easier. When I started PiggyRide, so it was again, the idea came to me, and I was thinking that okay, I'll have one co-founder I'll have one more co-founder. So there are so many things we think that okay, how will I raise my seed round? What will be the dilution? And then this is something when I look at okay, after 5 years, if the company is valued at certain X, what will be left with you and what will be left with for Rohan or for other co-founder. So I looked at those calculations, and that's how I came to a figure that okay, this is what is I think a good enough number for anybody. And obviously, whatever you say is less for everyone. So it's for me also, for him also. So problem is if we don't discuss the moment that equity will have value,
everything falls apart. Yeah. In fact, so, there's a really important question, and it's from someone who's in your industry. So I have the founder of Party Hard Drivers. Okay. Party Hard Drivers' question is that brilliant inspiration, definite market gap, but being in a similar service space, it's also a huge responsibility of the child security. How does PiggyRide address that issue?
The way we look at this is, so again, there were many things which we had done operationally also. There were few things which we had done through technology where we were trying to make the kids' rides safe. And so first, let's look at the operational part of it. When we talk about kids' rides, they're always pooled in rides. So wherein there are multiple kids at the same time sitting in the car. So obviously the kid was not alone. There were times when they were alone, but then the whole concept was toward shared rides. Yeah. Secondly, our ride times are very strict. So our time starts from 4 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the evening. So we didn't do any rides later than that day because anyways kids don't travel also, and again it was not safer for us to provide service later than that. Now, when we look at our inventory of supply, or basically when we look at the supply of drivers, obviously there's a lot of bettings which we had done. But again, people can game the system and everything. So that's where we use a lot of technology. So we had actually installed a few devices in the car, wherein so there was a device installed in the car which used to make sure that, and again, there was a live feed available for us and also for the parents, so that they can view from their phone and we can also view from our dashboard. And apart from this, the feed also used to make sure that. So there was basically a facial recognition there, wherein if the driver is not the same, if the driver is driving distracted, if there is a case of driver feeling sleepy, or if he's looking back, or there was a front camera which used to track that whether there's a tailgating, whether he's jumping a signal or not. So we were using a lot of technology to make sure the rides are safe. Every of our ride will had multiple alerts, wherein if there is a stoppage at certain point which it isn't supposed to happen, then again alert used to come into the system. So there are many things like that. Obviously, we had protocols for different kind of alerts. If there was alert like the kid has been dropped at a certain place where he's not supposed to do it, it was like a P1 kind of alert, wherein we used to make sure that we used to talk to the driver immediately. If he's not, you cannot able to talk to him. So then we had a system where we can also stall the car from our dashboard. So all of those things were done, and point in being that we had to use a lot of technology to make sure. Obviously, see when you look at kids, suppose for any parent, I think it's the most cherished relationship which they have is the kids, after baby mothers or fathers, So I think trusting with their kids is the most difficult thing. I think that's where we had to make sure that our process and technology is very important. So that's where we try to create more and more transparency, and actually that's where it helped also. That's why we scaled to that number wherever we were in month of March. So I think, and again it was a WIP, so it's always WIP. But making sure that the rides are tracked. They can, and actually there are also plans to also introduce that wherein parents can directly talk to their kids also through their device which were installed, so the kids don't need actually a phone. So all of these things at least gave sense, some peace to basically to this parent that okay, the kids are traveling safe. I think that's all things which we use to make sure the rides are safe.
That's amazing, and I know that even the parents could actually track it on their own app. From what I remember, Manish, I'll tell you the rules of rapid fire. This is the only part of the show that is unscripted. So I have a list of about 10 questions. I'm going to ask those questions just like Mr. Karan Johar does, right? And the first thing that pops into your mind, you're just supposed to answer that. All right? Is that fair?
Okay.
Good. Yeah. So we'll get started right away. One piece of advice that you received on entrepreneurship that you still follow?
Never be in love of your idea.
Wow, that's a really good one. Never be in love with your idea. So put this in order of importance according to you, right? Your order of importance. Team, founder, customers, investors.
Team, founder, customers, investor.
Great. Why would you put the the customer second last? You said team.
So I think, again, if your team is not happy, if your team is not happy, then you'll not get loyal customers. You'll not be able to actually create a very true. So I think that's where I've seen this actually. If I have got people who are talented, and I think they have so much value, which I couldn't have gauged. So I think that's where I think team is very, very important, even more but important. Obviously, founder is very important, but you need to have a very, very good team. I have seen people wherein even though the founder is not very good, but still they have got such a brilliant team that they have done wonders. So I think team is very important.
What is a book that you're reading right now? Are you reading a book of this?
So I was reading the book, the things. There's one book which I read just last week. It's called Captain's Class.
Captain's Class.
So it's a book about. So basically, the book has what it has tracked is 50 top teams, sports teams in and across the world, which have done very good significantly. So, like for example, Australia's cricket team and everything. And what was the one thing which was common in all this? It's actually a very, very, very interesting.
Wow, Captain's Class. Okay, I'm definitely gonna read that book. Your biggest advice to founders about fundraising.
So I'll give you a very practical advice. I think. Every of the VC, with no disrespect, but I think the biggest thing which they look for is how can they sell the same idea to others also, whether they have a potential of, are they good enough to sell the same idea? I am sold, but how can they sell this idea to others also? And what I've seen is that many investors have a way of thinking that, okay, Series A is done, Series B hoga nahi hoga. So I think that's how they visualize it. So I think whenever you are, so your story, obviously, when you are trying to raise money, it's obviously about the story, correct? Because you're raising money on something which has not been done. So it's like you're the director of a film, and how do you better explain it? And how do you make sure there is a journey to it? And if the investor has confidence enough that you will be the best salesperson for that idea, obviously the idea has to be he has convinced on that. But if the idea is good, the market is good. Because finally at the end of the day, what I figured out is that VCs obviously invest in founders. If they don't think that founder is good enough, they don't invest. So I think that's where you have to come across that, okay, a very motivated, committed person who's obviously successful in selling me, but can he sell to others also? So I think that's where I think we need to focus on when you're raising funds.
I have a powerful story. I completely agree with you. It's such an important part of fundraising.
Yeah.
Next question: scaling before profitability or profitability before scaling?
Okay, so I think the scaling before profitability. Obviously, if we see again, it's a cutthroat market. If you're profitable without before scaling, then somebody might else scale you, because at least in B2C market when we look at, yeah, see that's what happened with Zo. So when we look at these Indian clones, also price is something which finally people can reduce. See, finally, if you have scale, if you attain scale, you can do a lot of stuff. Yeah, if you don't attain scale, I think your negotiation, everything is a challenge. So I think for me, obviously there has to be a path to profitability. Obviously, you have to be in a business where you can increase margins, where you cannot have continuous. So your business cannot be like when you create the business plan, your cost shouldn't increase as we scale business, correct? So that's how we look at it. कि आपका cost कहीं पे कम होना चाहिए, कहीं पे वो ratio, कहीं पे कर्व नीचे आना चाहिए. So obviously that has to be there. But if you don't scale, there are certain things which you'll not be able to foresee, because with scale, a lot of challenges, a lot of different problems come, and then if you don't handle that, and I think it will be a challenge. So obviously, scale before profitability. Scale
That's a really
is a
good
path
example.
to profitability.
Yeah, at least unit economically be positive, but you can be negative.
Exactly.
One thing you'd like to change about the Indian startup ecosystem?
Maybe we can focus more on tech-driven. I'm not the one to preach, but yeah, I think I would also like to see a more tech-driven startups in India. Second, I think which is very important is that, see, when we look at China, US, there are so many tech billionaires who are there who have actually made money for them, and then they have been actually they have played a very big part in their country's economy. I think that is one thing which is lacking here, and obviously. Maybe if some founder does very good, and I think he should support ecosystem more, but then has to go to that level. Shouldn't be looking for exit. That's what I'm saying. If you have a potential to become a 10, 15, $20 billion company, why do exit? Keep on doing it. We look at Mark Zuckerberg. He can be the next president. Yeah. So you don't know the opportunities if we are willing to stick it out. So we need those kind of role models, and definitely it will look like I'll look like a hypocrite saying that, but yeah, I think. Definitely this time I want to be there for PiggyRide for next 30, 40 years, whatever time does it take. But yeah, we need people who can be there in the startup and go to the next journey, basically go to the next level. Just don't look for exit.
Last question I'll ask you, because obviously we're running out of time. But besides your startup, what is one thing that you're obsessed about right now?
Playing a hook shot on a 120-kilometer ball. Yeah, so that's right now I'm not able to play cricket. So. And also my family is not allowing me, so I'm just thinking of, so maybe I'll just sneak out one day and I'll go and play it. So I think that's something right now I'm missing a lot, and rest everything is fine. I think we are all obviously it's a tough times, but yeah, you have to evolve, you have to adapt. So I think rest all is okay.
Manish, thank you so much. With this, we come to the end of the show. I'm going to just check if there's any. People have been asking, and I think there's answers going out about which cities are you available in, so that all that is going on. But I really enjoyed today's conversation. I mean, it's very rare to find a third-time entrepreneur who's had 2 exits. Most companies, they say in the first 5 years, 90% of businesses fail. Right, and you've gone through 2 businesses for 5 years, and both of them have exited. So definitely, you're already one in a billion story. And I know that with you're bringing obviously to PiggyRide a wealth of experience, but also a burning desire, like you said, to take this into a decathon, maybe even into 100 billion kind of a valuation. So really excited. Thank you so much for being on. If there's any final thoughts you want to give for the audience.
I think the pleasure of mine. Thank you for having me here. I think I have still not done anything, I think, to give any gyan or something. Just that I think if anybody has passion to start something, I think the best way, I think you had asked me maybe one more advice, I'll just end it with. I think if you have any idea, I think you should just not start by leaving a job and start doing. When I started Koovs, I was working in a company and I used to run it, would work on weekends and anything. So when you have an idea, you should work on it, because you don't know how much, what it can become. So just don't stop with that. If you have a job, and try to work on weekends, try to work on nights, and maybe by this way we might create much bigger billion-dollar companies, and the ecosystem will then, because if the ecosystem grows, it helps people. So I think that's an advice for future entrepreneurs. If somebody wants to start, you can start from your home with having a job also. It's not that you leave the job and then you can start.
That's brilliant advice. I don't think there's a better way to end the show than you don't have to quit your job. There's weekend, stop watching TV, and go out there and make it happen. Thank you so much, Manish. Wish you the best. And I'm sure we'll have you back in the future, and we'll talk about the new stuff happening at PiggyRide. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.